In the world of value, truth hides behind great ideas. Before there were markets, before prices measured ambition, before the world spoke in the language of profit, there was something older, an instinct to trade, to share, to survive together. And from that ancient rhythm of exchange, a question began to whisper across centuries. Can morality and self-interest truly coexist? That question would find its voice in the mind of a quiet Scotsman, a philosopher who never founded a company, never ruled a nation, yet changed forever how humanity would think about work, wealth and freedom. His name was Adam Smith. Kirkcaldy, Scotland, June 16, 1723. A small fishing village where the air smelled of salt and coal, and where trade wasn't an idea, it was life itself. Smith was born here, the only child of a widowed mother. His father, a customs officer, had died before his birth, leaving his mother, Margaret Douglas, to raise him with fierce devotion and quiet strength. As a boy, Adam would walk along the cliffs and watch the ships sailing toward the horizon. To most, those sails meant goods and money. To him, they meant stories, invisible connections between people who had never met, yet depended on each other to live. Even then, a question stirred in his mind. Why do people cooperate? Why do they trade rather than steal? And how does self-interest, the desire to better one's own condition, become the invisible thread that binds entire societies together? At 14, Smith entered the University of Glasgow, a small college alive with new ideas. There he met Francis Hutcheson, a philosopher who taught that morality was not imposed by kings or churches, but born from empathy, from what he called the moral sense. Smith absorbed this deeply. He learned that virtue and liberty were not enemies, but partners, that moral order could arise naturally, not from authority, but from the freedom of human hearts seeking happiness. Later at Oxford, he found a different world, rigid, proud, and silent. He complained that the professors had long ceased to teach. In that silence, Smith began to write. He would dedicate his life to proving that human freedom, not command, was the true source of progress. In 1759, he published The Theory of Moral Sentiments. It was not a book about wealth, it was a book about the human heart. He argued that our sense of right and wrong does not come from rules or fear, but from an inner mirror, the impartial spectator within each of us. That quiet voice that asks, "What would I think of myself if I were in their place?" Society, he said, does not need perfect men, only people capable of empathy. He saw morality as a self-regulating system, a dance of motives and judgments that could create harmony without control. In an age ruled by monarchs and ministers, Smith proposed something revolutionary, that moral order could emerge from freedom itself. 1776. Europe trembles with revolution and change. Empires fall, new ideas rise. In that storm, Smith releases The Wealth of Nations. It is not a celebration of greed, as many later misread it, but a study of how cooperation can emerge without command. He wrote of the baker, the brewer, and the butcher, none of whom provide our dinner out of charity, but out of self-interest. And yet, through this pursuit, something miraculous happens. Each, seeking his own gain, serves the needs of others. He called this unseen harmony the invisible hand. To Smith, this was not magic. It was moral, a reflection of human nature, imperfect yet capable of creating order through freedom. Markets, he said, are not machines built by rulers. They are living systems born of trust, repetition, and hope. Freedom for Smith was not chaos. It was the architecture of voluntary cooperation. Over the centuries, his words were both worshipped and betrayed. Some turned the invisible hand into an excuse for unchecked capitalism. Others condemned him as a prophet of selfishness. But Smith was neither. He was something rarer, a man trying to reconcile human imperfection with human freedom. He knew that markets, like morality, only thrive when anchored in virtue. Commerce without empathy becomes exploitation. Liberty without conscience becomes chaos. He wrote, "Man naturally desires not only to be loved, but to be lovely, to be admired, but also to deserve admiration." That, to Smith, was the essence of civilization itself. His invisible hand was not merely economic, it was moral gravity, the unseen pull that holds communities together. Adam Smith died in 1790 in the same quiet Scottish town where he was born. He left behind no fortune, no empire, only a map of freedom. A century later, his ideas would inspire new voices, each returning to the same question. Can freedom survive without morality? Smith believed it could, but only if we remember that liberty is not the absence of virtue, it is its greatest test. To him, economics was never about numbers. It was a mirror of the human soul, a moral drama of ambition and restraint, desire and duty, played out in every market stall and every human heart. When Smith looked at society, he did not see perfection. He saw fragile cooperation and believed in it more than the plans of kings. Freedom, when paired with empathy, creates harmony. That was his faith and his warning. Perhaps the invisible hand is not something that guides us, but something that reminds us that even in pursuit of our own good, we are never alone in its consequences. This is Masters of Value, where minds built the price of freedom. Next time, we step deeper into Smith's vision to uncover the paradox that made him immortal, how the pursuit of self-interest became the foundation of collective good, the idea the world would one day call the invisible hand.